Illinois officials held a second day of public hearings as part of an investigation into Operation Midway Blitz, an immigration crackdown orchestrated last fall by the Trump administration. At least one person was killed during that crackdown. Today's testimony included a first-hand account from a woman who was shot by Border Patrol agents after following the agent's vehicle, warning other residents that, quote, ICE was in the neighborhood, unquote. The Department of Homeland Security initially claimed this woman rammed into the officer's car, but body cam footage released later in the investigation appeared to show an officer swerving into her vehicle. This is just one of the stories being highlighted by the Illinois Accountability Commission. Illinois Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker joins me now. Governor, it's good to have you on the program. Is the point of this public hearing to build the case for either civil litigation or possible criminal indictments?
That's exactly right, Major, because you know that the president and the Secretary of Homeland Security and the supervisors that stand over the CBP and ICE agents aren't holding them accountable. And so we know that if we keep a record, that we can ultimately hold them accountable. And indeed, we're using that record even now in federal court to limit what they can do. They've been tackling and detaining U.S. citizens, black and brown people, people who speak with an accent, and using that as an excuse to take people away. So we know that that's illegal. We also know that that's against law enforcement protocol. So these people need to know that if they keep doing it, they're eventually both going to lose their jobs and maybe even their freedom.
Governor, you well know this administration, if it were here, would say, what about the accountability in Chicago or in Illinois for those who have either lost their lives or been victimized by crimes committed by undocumented personnel, either in the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois? Do you have any curiosity about that side of the ledger?
Well, we ought to go after, as the president said he was going to, the worst of the worst. I want to get violent criminals off our streets. We've been working, of course, for years with the FBI, ATF, the DEA to do exactly that. Now we have CBP and ICE entering, and frankly, they're breaking the law as they're doing it, but they're not holding the worst of the worst accountable. They're just literally going after people who are minding their own business or peacefully protesting. They should be going after those violent criminals and not after peaceful protesters.
As you know, Governor, after Chicago, it was Minneapolis. That was Operation Metro Surge. I only bring Minneapolis up because today, there was a series of raids seeking fraud in the healthcare space, jointly conducted by the state and the federal government. Fraud is something that's been prioritized by the administration through Vice President J.D. Vance. In Illinois, if the feds came to you, would you cooperate in similar kind of anti-fraud raids as occurred today in Minnesota?
Look, any fraud that gets identified is something that we want to investigate and hold people responsible for. I want you to know, though, that we have an auditor general who is constantly on duty in the state of Illinois auditing our departments. We also have internal audits in each one of our departments. And we, of course, want to go after any money that belongs to the taxpayers that's being misused. So we do that. We do that with the Attorney General. We do that with law enforcement. We do that with our inspectors general. I wish they were doing that at the federal level, because you can see the corruption that's going on in the Trump administration, where people are literally getting away with billions of dollars, right, misusing their positions to make money, and no one's holding them accountable. And apparently the president is even offering maybe to pardon those people. So look, I'm opposed to fraud, to waste, to abuse in government, but let's do that at every level of government. Let's hold people accountable.
Let's talk about prediction markets for a second. You recently signed an executive order informing state employees not to use non-public information to bet within prediction markets. Was that going on? Is that something you're trying to get ahead of? And you've been sued, or the state has been sued by the Trump administration over trying to apply gambling laws to prediction markets. Explain both of those to me.
Well, let me be clear. The prediction markets have taken the place of sports betting, for example, and so they go unregulated because the CFTC, which supposedly regulates the prediction markets, is doing nothing about this. And yet we are very careful about who we give sports betting licenses to. It's not right. It's not fair to those companies that go through a vetting process in our state in order to earn one of those licenses, to then have the federal government authorizing these prediction markets to do anything. Now, back to why did we ban our state employees from betting on these prediction markets? Because some of the things that can be bet on are things that are under the control of someone working in government. You saw that the other day at the federal level, where there was a soldier who was arrested, in fact, for betting on the Maduro detainment and arrest in Venezuela. He knew already ahead of time that that was going to happen, and he bet on it. We don't want someone who's in control of the outcome to be able to bet on it. We've banned that in sports betting. We should have banned that in prediction markets. And so that's why I've told anybody working for state government that is now prohibited.
Let me talk to you about something I read in the Chicago Tribune recently, and I'm going to paraphrase it. The Bears are leaving Chicago. The question is for where? Hammond, Indiana, or Arlington Heights, Illinois? Where are they going to go, and what are you going to do about it?
We want them to stay in the state of Illinois. They've looked for a place to stay in the city of Chicago. Remember, teams across the NFL have moved to new stadiums, built big new stadiums with all kinds of new amenities. The fans love it. The teams love having that. It expands their market. But there just isn't a piece of property that they've been able to find in the city of Chicago. We've tried to help them do that. So they own already 300 acres out in Arlington Heights, and they've thought about moving there long ago. They also are talking to the state of Indiana. I will say, we're, of course, offering them the incentives to stay in the state of Illinois. We recognize, though, that my job is to protect the taxpayers of Illinois. That's my North Star. And then to make sure that we keep the Bears. So we have to, cut the middle of that, make sure that the Bears get what they need to stay, and that we're not giving away taxpayer money in order to build them a new stadium. I know they're willing to give lots of things away in Indiana, the taxpayers' money, easy to hand over to anyone, including the Chicago Bears. But the Chicago Bears will lose an awful lot of fans if they try to get up and leave the state of Illinois. We're going to have to start calling them the Hammond Hams.
Well, the legislature's got the clock ticking on it. It's got to have something resolved, as I understand it, by the end of next month. What are you doing to see that gets done?
Well, that is, in fact, the end of the legislative session here in Illinois. So that for sure is the deadline. They know that. I've been pushing and pushing to get the legislature to move as fast as humanly possible. I'm the one who put a deal on the table that the Bears like, that the legislature has taken up. We've gotten it through the House of Representatives, although it's got some things in it that I think need to get changed. The Senate is now going to consider that bill and hopefully approve a bill that is acceptable to the Bears and for taxpayers. And if we get all of that done, I'm going to sign a bill, and we're going to be shaking hands with the Chicago Bears staying in the state of Illinois.
The Chicago Bears, not the Hammond Hams, as described by the Democratic governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker. Always a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.